Karen said my land was unsafe, then I deployed smoke grenades to mark the property lines. What would you do if your neighbor tried to sabotage your dream home before you even moved in? I'd spent years saving for my slice of paradise, a 5-acre plot in rural Montana, where the sky stretches endless and the nearest neighbor is a half-mile away. The land was perfect. Rolling hills, a creek cutting through, and a flat clearing ideal for the cabin I'd always wanted. My wife, Lila, and I had big planned solar panels, a vegetable garden, maybe even a few chickens. But the day we drove up to survey our new property, a woman in a pristine white SUV was waiting, arms crossed, lips pursed. Her name was Karen, and she was about to make our lives hell. She introduced herself as the president of the local homeowners association, though our land wasn't even part of it. "This area's unsafe," she declared, pointing at my property like it was a crime scene. "That creek floods every spring, and the soil's unstable. You'll be endangering the whole community if you build here." Her tone dripped with authority, but her eyes betrayed something else: control, plain and simple. She didn't want us there, and she was ready to fight dirty. I tried reasoning. We had a surveyor and geologist check the land. It's solid, and the creek's manageable. I even offered to show her the reports, but Karen waved me off. "I've lived here for 15 years, she snapped. "I know this valley better than some so-called expert." She handed me a stack of papers: HOA guidelines, environmental regulations, even a petition she'd started to protect the community from our reckless plans. Lila, ever the peacemaker, suggested we'd look over the documents, but Karen wasn't done. "If you don't back off, I'll make sure the county shuts you down," she said, climbing into her SUV and peeling out, leaving a cloud of dust in her wake. That night, Lila and I pored over her papers. Most were irrelevant HOA rules that didn't apply, outdated flood maps, and a petition with 6 signatures, half of them from her own family. But Karen's threat about the county worried me. A quick search online revealed she was tight with the local planning board, known for filing complaints to stall projects she didn't like. She derailed a family's barn construction last year over aesthetic concerns. We weren't about to let her bully us off our own land, but we needed to play smart. The truth was, Karen's campaign wasn't about safety, it was about power. Our land was the last undeveloped plot in the valley, and Karen's house sat on a hill overlooking it. A new cabin would block her pristine view of the mountains, and she'd clearly decided we were the enemy. But I wasn't just some city slicker she could scare off. I'd grown up on a farm, knew my way around tools, and had a stubborn streak a mile wide. If Karen wanted a fight, she'd get one. We hired a lawyer to double-check our permits. Everything was airtight. The geologist's report confirmed the land was stable, and the creek's flood risk was minimal with proper drainage. Armed with facts, we reached out to the county to preempt any complaints. The planning officer, a no-nonsense woman named Maria, laughed when I mentioned Karen. "Oh, her," she said. "She calls us every other week. Don't worry, your permits are solid." But Maria warned us Karen had a knack for rallying neighbors, and a public hearing was scheduled in 2 weeks to review community concerns about our build. Karen had already submitted a formal objection, claiming our construction would destabilize the ecosystem. That's when I met Tom, the wild card in this drama. Tom was our other neighbor, a grizzled ex-Marine who lived in a trailer a mile down the road. He showed up unannounced one morning, hauling a bag of apples from his orchard. "Heard you're tangling with Karen," he said, grinning. "She tried to get my trailer condemned, 'cause it didn't match her vision for the valley." Tom had fought her off by proving his property met every code, but he'd kept a grudge and a plan. "She's all about appearances," he said. "Hit her where it hurts. Make her look ridiculous." Tom's idea was wild, but it sparked something in me. Karen's biggest weapon was her ability to stir up fear and doubt. If we could expose her as the overreaching busybody she was, the neighbors might see through her. But we needed something bold, something that would stick in everyone's minds. That's when I remembered the smoke grenades. Back in my college days, I dabbled in paintball and airsoft, and a buddy of mine ran a tactical gear shop. He'd sent me a box of Enola Gay smoke grenades as a housewarming gag, bright, colorful, civilian legal ones used for photography and games. They were perfect, dramatic, attention-grabbing, and impossible to ignore. I called my lawyer to confirm we could use them on our own property. We could, as long as we didn't cause a disturbance. Then Lila and I hatched a plan. The day of the public hearing arrived, and the community center was packed. Karen had rallied her usual crew, her sister, her cousin, and a few nervous locals she'd scared with tales of floods and collapsing hills. She stood at the podium, clutching a binder full of charts and photos, railing about how our cabin would ruin the valley's natural beauty and endanger lives. Her performance was polished, but I caught a few neighbors rolling their eyes. They'd heard this song before. When it was my turn to speak, I kept it short. "We've got all the permits, expert reports, and county approval," I said, holding up our documents. "But Karen's claiming our land's unsafe, and she's questioned where our property lines even are. So we figured we'd make it crystal clear." I nodded to Lila, who was waiting outside with Tom. A murmur rippled through the crowd as bursts of red, blue, and green smoke erupted along the edges of our property, visible through the community center's windows. Lila and Tom had set off the smoke grenades, each one marking a surveyed corner of our land. The vibrant clouds billowed high, a technicolor declaration of our rights. Gasps turned to chuckles as people realized what was happening. Karen's face went from smug to scarlet. "That's vandalism," she shrieked, pointing out the window. "They're polluting the valley." But the county officer, Maria, was already stifling a laugh. "Those are legal smoke grenades, Karen," she said. "They're on their property, and they're not hurting anyone." The room erupted in whispers, and Karen's allies looked mortified. Her own petition had complained about visual pollution, and here we were, turning her words into a literal spectacle. The hearing turned chaotic. Karen tried to pivot, claiming the smoke was proof of our reckless disregard for the community. But the neighbors weren't buying it. One woman, who'd been quiet until now, stood up. "Karen, you told us their land was a flood zone. But I've lived here 20 years, and that creek's never flooded my place. Why are you so worked up about their cabin?" The room buzzed with agreement, and Karen's composure cracked. Tom, who'd slipped into the back, chimed in. "She's mad, 'cause their house'll block her view. Same reason she tried to get my trailer torn down." That was the twist nobody expected. Tom's blunt revelation shifted the room's mood entirely. Neighbors started sharing their own stories. Karen's complaints about their fences, their gardens, even their mailboxes. She wasn't protecting the valley, she was policing it. By the time the smoke cleared both literally and figuratively, Karen's campaign was in tatters. The county board dismissed her objection, citing our thorough documentation and the lack of any credible evidence on her side. The neighbors, now openly laughing at the absurdity of her tantrum, voted unanimously to approve our build. Karen stormed out, muttering about taking this to court. But Maria later told us she had no case. In the weeks that followed, we broke ground on our cabin. The smoke grenades became a local legend. Neighbors stopped by to joke about the colorful protest and share their own Karen stories. Tom became a regular at our build site, bringing apples and advice. Karen, meanwhile, went quiet. Her SUV stopped cruising by our land, and we heard she'd stepped down from the HOA after losing face at the hearing. Her view of the mountains? Still there, but she'd have to get used to our cabin in the foreground. Building our home felt like a victory, not just over Karen but over anyone who tries to control others through fear and lies. We proved our land was ours, and we did it with a flair that nobody in the valley would forget. Lila and I sat on our half-finished porch one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky as vividly as our smoke grenades. We'd fought for our dream and won, and the valley felt a little freer for it. What do you think? Did we go too far with the smoke grenades? Or was it the perfect way to shut down a bully like Karen? Share your thoughts below.